Before he was the beloved voice of Buzz Lightyear, Tim Allen had a secret so serious, Hollywood nearly turned its back on him forever. What was it? And how did he come back stronger than ever? Imagine being on the verge of a life sentence. Not for a role in a gritty crime drama, but in real life. Long before the red carpets and sitcom fame, Tim Allen was facing a future behind bars, and the odds of him ever making it in Hollywood were next to none. Today, Tim Allen is a household name, a man whose voice can instantly transport you to the animated world of Toy Story, and whose signature grunt from Home Improvement still echoes in the memories of 90s kids everywhere. His face has become synonymous with classic sitcom comfort, and his presence on screen brings with it a certain familiarity, like catching up with an old friend. Over the years, Allen has carved out a unique place in Hollywood, not just as a comedian, but as a cultural icon. His role in Last Man Standing only solidified that status, portraying a character whose values, humor, and stubbornness mirrored Allen's own persona. To the outside world, he represents stability, success, and a touch of old-school charm in an ever-changing entertainment landscape. But what fans see today is the polished result of a much messier beginning, a past buried under years of reinvention, hard choices, and a brush with the kind of darkness most stars never recover. And it's that buried truth that makes his rise all the more unbelievable. But to truly understand Tim Allen's story, you have to rewind the clock to a cold day in October 1978. Long before the cameras, the laughter tracks, and the Disney paychecks, Allen wasn't a rising star. He was a desperate man caught in a life-altering mistake. At just 25 years old, he was arrested at the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport in Michigan with over 650 grams of cocaine in his possession. That number wasn't just shocking, it was life-threatening in legal terms. Under Michigan law at the time, possession of that quantity meant one thing: a mandatory life sentence. This wasn't a youthful misstep or a minor infraction. This was serious federal-level drug trafficking, the kind of crime that could end a person's life outside the prison walls. For many of his younger fans today, this chapter feels like fiction. The idea that the voice of Buzz Lightyear and the beloved TV dad from Home Improvement was once dressed in an orange jumpsuit and facing down the barrel of a lifetime behind bars. But the mugshot is real, the charges were real, and the consequences were nearly permanent. In that moment, Tim Allen wasn't thinking about television scripts or animated movie roles. He was trying to survive, and survival meant doing something that would change his fate and his future forever. Faced with the terrifying reality of a life sentence, Tim Allen stood at a crossroads, one that would determine whether he faded into obscurity or clawed his way toward redemption. With no clear path out, he made a controversial and life-altering decision. He cooperated with authorities. Allen provided the names of other dealers in exchange for a reduced sentence, a move that earned him a plea deal and transformed his potential life behind bars into a significantly shorter term. For many, it was a betrayal of the criminal code. For Allen, it was the only way to survive. He spent just over 2 years in federal prison, but the weight of the decision would follow him far beyond the cell walls. Even after his release, the stigma was impossible to shake. He wasn't a star with a clean slate. He was an ex-con with a record, trying to break into an industry that rarely forgives, let alone forgets. Casting directors didn't care about his sense of humor or potential. They saw the past, the headlines, the baggage. In Hollywood, reputation is currency, and Allen's was bankrupt. At times, it must have seemed like the dream was over before it began, his future dimmed by the shadow of a choice he made in desperation. And yet, it was in that very shadow that he started to rebuild, slowly, quietly, one joke at a time. After prison, Tim Allen didn't return to the streets or try to outrun his past. Instead, he turned to a stage and a microphone. Comedy became his lifeline. Night after night, he worked dive bars and small clubs, sharpening his wit and embracing a raw, unapologetic style that drew from his own life. He didn't hide from the truth, he leaned into it, using humor to make sense of the mistakes he had made. In a world that had every reason to dismiss him, Allen found a voice that people connected with. His routines were honest, self-deprecating, and surprisingly relatable, especially to audiences who had been through their own struggles. Bit by bit, the laughs grew louder and the rooms got bigger. Comedy gave him a second shot, not just at a career, but at life. That second chance led him to television, where ABC took a gamble on the gritty ex-con with a gift for timing. In 1991, Home Improvement hit the airwaves, and it didn't just succeed, it exploded. Tim Taylor, the lovable handyman with more enthusiasm than skill, became a cultural icon. Allen had gone from inmate to primetime star, from prison bars to sitcom sets, and with every punchline, he rewrote the narrative others had written for him. It wasn't a clean journey, but it was real. and audiences embraced it, even as Home Improvement soared in the ratings, and Tim Allen became a familiar face in millions of homes. Not everyone in Hollywood was cheering. Behind the scenes, there was skepticism, quiet conversations, second guesses, and closed doors. Some producers and executives couldn't get past his criminal record, no matter how big the laugh track or how impressive the ratings. In an industry obsessed with image, Allen's past was a liability. There were whispers about trust, concern over public backlash, and questions about whether someone with his history should be held up as a family-friendly figure. For every door that opened, there were others that remained stubbornly shut. Some actors hesitated to share the screen with him, unsure of what lingering shadows might still follow. Studios, careful to protect their reputations, weighed the risk of betting on a man whose past could resurface at any moment. Allen, for all his success, still had to prove himself again and again, not just as a performer, but as a changed man. The applause was real, but so was the doubt. And through it all, he kept showing up, determined not to be defined by the worst chapter of his life. Despite the doubts, the whispers, and the uphill battles, Tim Allen did something few in Hollywood ever manage. He transformed not just his image, but his place in the hearts of viewers. Against all odds, he became a family icon. With Home Improvement, he wasn't just playing a dad. He became the dad millions looked up to, a goofy yet lovable figure who made mistakes but always tried to do the right thing. Then came the role that sealed it, Buzz Lightyear. Voicing the brave, loyal, and slightly delusional Space Ranger in Toy Story wasn't just a win, it was a generational stamp. Suddenly, Allen wasn't just a sitcom star. He was immortalized in animation, part of childhoods across the globe. The irony? The man who once faced life in prison was now the voice behind a Disney hero, teaching kids about friendship, bravery, and going to infinity and beyond. It was the ultimate comeback, a full-circle moment that not even the best screenwriters could have predicted. Hollywood, which once doubted him, now needed him. Families tuned in, kids quoted him, and executives who once hesitated were now writing him checks. Tim Allen had done the impossible. He didn't just rebuild his career, he rebuilt his identity, and the world welcomed him back with open arms. Tim Allen's journey is more than a Hollywood comeback. It's a living reminder that your past doesn't have to define your future. He went from the brink of a life sentence to becoming one of the most recognizable and beloved figures in entertainment. His story isn't polished or perfect, and that's exactly what makes it powerful. It's real. He made choices that nearly destroyed him, but he also made different choices, ones rooted in courage, humility, and hard work that brought him back. In a world quick to cancel, Allen's life reminds us that redemption is possible, that growth is real, and that second chances, when met with grit and honesty, can change everything. Because sometimes the people with the darkest pasts end up shining the brightest. If this story surprised you or gave you a new perspective on Tim Allen, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more untold stories and surprising truths from the world of Hollywood. Your support helps us keep these powerful narratives coming. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's next.